Welcome to my channel, INTJ Island. Today, I'm going to discuss what I think of as paradise, or an ideal existence for myself. I spent most of a year writing a novel a couple of years ago, and while I am sure you can figure it out for yourself, it didn't make me a world-renowned best-selling author. However, it did open the door of my understanding to what I would see as my ideal existence. That was not my original intention, and I had no idea that was where I was heading when I began. I started with what might be viewed as the worst possible scenario, where both of my primary protagonists, Bill and Cookie Colt, were dead. They were buried and long forgotten by those who knew them. Even those who knew them had been dead for centuries. And yet, to this day, as I have told my wife several times, and she quickly agrees with me, that if I had one wish granted by an all-powerful genie, it would be for my wife and I to be living the life that Bill and Cookie awoke to in their android second life. While I had instinctively felt this was true, today I want to look at a few of the reasons why. First, I will look at the obvious. As I have gotten older, I have had to lay down many of my favorite pastimes. I can't get out there and charge the basket the way I once could in basketball. The last time I tried that was in 2011, when both my sons and my oldest grandson were playing at my home basketball hoop, and I ended up on the ground with both my sons hovering over me like I was an invalid who had fallen down the stairs. The only thing that was actually hurt was my pride, but I realized that seeing an open path to the basket doesn't mean much when you can no longer move quickly. My failing shoulders had stopped me from playing racquetball a few years before that. Bit by bit, I have slowed down and decreased in physical ability. I hate it, but that's what happens when you get old. It is gradual, and I'm still able to hike and go out and play with the grandkids in the yard, if I am careful. I have learned how to live with constant low-level pain. If I had woken up one morning when I was 40 years old and had felt like I do on my best day today, I would have thought that I was terribly ill. I am facing the fact that it will only get worse with time. Life in the fast lane has become life in the breakdown lane physically. So, the start of the saga is where things immediately improve. When Bill wakes up, he is in a box, and he fears he has been buried alive. But, bit by bit, he discovers that all is not as it seems. He is once again physically in his early 20s, and his lovely wife is physically the same 19 years old she was on their wedding day. All the physical things they had lost as they aged were suddenly restored to them. They had no idea how it happened at first, but they knew that they liked it. Living that life would feel wonderful. All the doors were open to do anything they ever could do physically. Next was their mental ability. They were androids with a computer platform where their minds were running in a full emulation of their human brains. They had to be told that they were androids because they felt completely human. However, they were untiring. Thinking for long hours on a problem did not leave Bill drained of energy. Mentally, there were no down days. And then they discovered they hadn't scratched the surface yet. There was a great deal more computing power in their electronic brains, which they learned how to switch on at will. It created a mental universe where they could roam together. And later on, they designed ways to upgrade to even more powerful brains. And they found that all this enhanced mental ability also moved their already loving existence to an incredibly high level. They were in great shape physically and mentally as they hit the third thing that I like, isolation. These two were to become an Adam and Eve on their own planet, which they named Addis. It was located in a distant galaxy, and they had the entire galaxy all to themselves. Paradise, at least to me anyway. No frustrating people talking nonsense and making unreasonable demands. No demands from a government, since they were all the government there was. There were many challenges, as you might imagine, starting out from scratch. I described their mechanically driven reproductive system to my doctor during an appointment, and he was impressed with the idea. No birth defects, no labor pain, and their children turned out to be brilliant and gifted, each in an individual area. An artist, a writer, a mathematician, a musician, and little Stacy was the INTJ philosopher. In my video, An Addis Halloween, I covered a conversation between Bill and Stacy on the topic of Addis holidays. This existence was far more than a hermit living in isolation in a cabin in the woods. There was industry going on with robots running the industrial park that allowed for modern living. And by using Bill and Cookie's mental abilities, innovative new things were constantly coming online. The planet was going to explode with growth and challenges. Life was exciting, and they were equipped to handle problems as they arose. So there they were, Bill and Cookie, who had health, physical gifts, mental power, extreme longevity, and in time, they were surrounded by the brightest minds they had ever known. And those things were only going to get better. Things were not perfect in this paradise. There were some great challenges. For example, the winters were harsh. But one of the things Bill did in order to make things easier for his kids was to create an ice slide. This is a snippet from the story. "I'm bringing Jenny down," Bill yelled. "Okay," Cookie shouted. "All clear." He moved into place at the top of the slide, sitting on a layer of ice 3 inches thick. He wrapped his arms around little Jennifer's waist and kissed her cheek. "Are you ready, honey?" "Yes, Daddy." Her voice sounded so excited she was about to pop. The door ahead of them suddenly opened, and Bill pushed off on the handrail. They began sliding down the icy slope. Electric lights set above the chute, untouchable, enclosed by polycarbonate, lit the path and helped to keep the temperature warm enough to protect the kids from frostbite in the bitter Addis cold. Faster now. They hit the first turn, and Jenny squealed in delight. They were pushed up on the side of the enclosed chute and were now increasing their speed. The lights passed by quickly. They seemed only like one flashing light. Continuing to accelerate, they hit the next turn. Whee! Jenny was thrilled. The lights were barely flickering now, and then the big drop came. Even Bill felt his stomach lurch in the freefall. Jenny was screaming her delight as they hit bottom, only to spend their kinetic energy in ascending into the air, slowing, and then clearing the top, and they were descending again, this time through a maze of turns. A sharp bank to the left sent them high onto the right side of the chute. Then it cut sharply back to the right as their speed increased. They were going so fast by the time they hit bottom, they felt like they were truly flying, and they were lifted up, and all the way over through a loop. For an instant they were completely confused. Left, then right, and back again, in a series of sharply banked turns, snaking side to side, while drifting up and down the sides of the chute. Finally they started to slow as they moved upward, and their emotions came down with their speed. They landed lightly into the net after being ejected from the slide. Bill felt he had escaped death by the skin of his teeth. Had Jennifer had enough? "Can we go again?" Jennifer's brown hair danced around her as she joyfully bounced up and down. She was begging before her feet had hit solid ground. With those lovely brown eyes flashing her delight and desire for more, Bill just hated to deny her request, but they had to go inside. The sun was down and the temperature was dropping fast. On the first run that day, Cookie had taken little Angie on her lap, and then Kurt and Melanie each took solo runs, screaming in glee all the way down. Stacy was a year old, but they had tried her on the merry-go-round and the playground slide, and she had cried every time. She didn't like to fall or to be out of control. So they didn't even try to take her down the ice slide. She would be terrified the entire way down. She was happy occupying her own time in the heated room at the bottom of the slide. Everyone else had taken several rides, and it was time to head inside to enjoy some hot cocoa and marshmallows toasted over the fire in the dining room while they sang happy songs. Februarys were no longer dreaded on Addis. I first wrote that in 2016. Time keeps moving forward, and it feels like it is speeding up. That is probably because I am slowing down, unfortunately. I don't know if I can convey to you the feelings I have about Addis, but I have traced out the story for well over a century and even touched on events that reach thousands of years into the future when the galaxy politically coalesces into a galactic empire, with Bill and Cookie, now greatly enhanced, running things from behind the scenes. They have no time for boredom, but no problem is too deep or difficult for them to tackle and to eventually overcome with intelligence and growth. There is always a new challenge and a way to tackle it. Love, music, conversations with people who are deep thinkers, mathematics and science at every level, and a school system that grows into near perfection for the brilliant little minds that enter the Amber Institute of Education where, when Stacy has grown up, she will teach an advanced course in the university called Philosophy in the Real World. Maybe it is the freedom from irritation that I find on Addis. Maybe it is the delight of a perpetual honeymoon with my soulmate. Maybe it is the joy of watching kids grow up in an environment that is healthy, where they can reach their full potential without constant negativity weighing them down. There are always problems to deal with, but there are very few intractable challenges that are beyond the incredible abilities of Bill and Cookie Colt, and maybe that is what I like best, always striving to move forward against the current and succeeding. Addis exists in the same way that the promise is kept in the song, "I'll Be Home for Christmas," if only in my dreams. What is your concept of paradise? The one place or scenario that you would consider to be where you would most love to exist permanently. If you enjoyed the video, please click like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you click on the bell, you will also receive notifications when I put up a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.